Okay, so you've learned the basics of personalizing YouTube a little bit and the basic features that YouTube has to offer within itself. But we want to improve our branding. That's kind of the goal here. And the first thing that you're going to do in order to improve your branding on YouTube is to upload an avatar. Your avatar needs to be 800 by 800 pixels. Whatever program you decide to use to design your avatar is fine with me. I'm going to be using Adobe Fireworks. You can use Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever works for you best. The principles are all the same. So I'm going to go into Adobe Fireworks now. Create you a new file. Make it 800 by 800. And just go ahead and create your new avatar on your 800 by 800 canvas, and you can save it as a PNG, a GIF, or a JPEG image. It doesn't matter. This is my new avatar right here, and this is what I'll be uploading. So I'll go back into YouTube. I'll choose my file, which is right here. It'll automatically upload for me and give me a preview of what my avatar will look like. Okay, so it looks good. I'll click Done Editing, and now my avatar is uploaded here on my header area. Upload your avatar at 800 by 800 pixels. It'll give you the highest resolution. That's how you can begin making sure that your branding is consistent across YouTube. So the next thing I'd like to do is change some of the information on my page. So I select channel settings and go into my info and settings here. Eline Web I want to read differently, so I'll change it like that. Our services are going to change. However, I will go ahead and leave the description and the tags the same for now. And I'll click Done Editing. I'm going to go into the video manager, go down to playlists. I'm going to create a new playlist and call it tutorials. Create my playlist, and now my playlist is added, and I want to add some videos. I'm going to go to Uploads, and then I'm going to select my tutorial and add it to tutorials playlist. I don't feel like leaving a note right now. Now I can go back to my page, take a look at my channel, add a playlist in here. Let's go ahead and add tutorials, add selected, and apply. And now it'll show the videos that are inside of that playlist. And I actually want to take out the uploaded videos playlist. Now we're going to create our background image, which is everything that's back here, and we want to make sure that it fits in with our brand. And since our background image needs to make sure that it looks good in every resolution, I've set my resize in my web developer toolbar to 1024. Let's go ahead and do that. So in 1024, the background will leave very little space to view any images, which is okay. There's a lot of people that have their browsers set to 1280 and above, so we won't be in much trouble there. We just want to make sure that that our background looks good in all screen resolutions. So since we're not going to necessarily create a tiled background, we want our background to blend in with the rest of the background. So we want to change our color. We're going to set our color to black, because the color black goes well with the brand for Eline Web. Okay, so it looks good. We set it to black, click Done Editing, and now we can start working on the actual background. So the first thing I'm going to want to do to get my background to look right on YouTube, I want to make sure that I can get my grids looking right in my on my canvas in Fireworks. So to do that, I want to see how wide the page is on YouTube. So I'll go into my web developer toolbar and find my ruler. I'll take my ruler and I'll put it here on the edges of the page. And I can see that it's 971. Because my eyes might be a little off, I don't know, it says 971, but I know that's 970 because nobody makes their website 971 in width. I'll get rid of the ruler here, resize my browser to 1024, and I can see that I have about 10 pixels on each side of the page. That's about how much room I have to display an image or something like that for users with 1024 resolutions to be able to see the images, or otherwise just to get my background to look good in 1024 resolution. And it's the same for 1280 and above. So if I drag my browser out farther, I can see how much space I'm going to get in terms of the resolution. So I'm going to go into Fireworks. I'm going to create me a rectangle that is 970. And I'm going to set this rectangle in the center of the canvas. I'm just going to drag it in there. Then I'm going to pull my guides over and put them on the edge of the rectangle. Now I'm going to create my rectangle as 990 width because I have 10 pixels on each side. So 970 plus 20 would make it 990. And set that in the middle. Drag my guides over to the edge. Now I know how much space I have to work with on my YouTube page in a 1024 resolution. I can delete my rectangle now and start working on the background. Now, just because I have 10 pixels on each side of the page doesn't mean that you're going to have 10 pixels on each side of the page. It all depends on your viewport, and your viewport may not allow that kind of space. It may have more space, it may have less. If you put it in Google Chrome or if you put it in Internet Explorer, depending on what sidebars you have in your browser, if any, it could all change your viewport and the amount of pixels you have on the side. But this will give you a general idea of how much space you have. Just to make it look good, you want to kind of get as small as you can to make sure that it looks good in every browser resolution. And if we go back to YouTube, we can see that we have some space up here. So let's find out how much space we have up here at the top. Since we don't have a brand channel, and if you're curious about how to get a brand channel, which will allow you to have a header up here at the top, you can go to YouTube help and go through their facts and find out how to get a brand channel. But generally you need to just contact the Google team and request a brand channel. If they approve it, then they will convert your channel over, and then you'll have all of those features available to you to create your custom header, and there's also a bunch of other customization features as well. But anyway, let's see how much space we have up here at the top. I'll put it there at the edge. Now I'll drag it up, and I would say it's about 15. Yeah, it's 15 pixels. So we have 15 pixels here to work with at the top. So let's get rid of our ruler. I'll go back into Fireworks and create me a guide that is 15 pixels. So I'm actually going to create a rectangle that is 15 pixels in height. This is just a really easy way to create your guides. There are other ways to do it. I prefer to do it this way. And then I'll create my guide here and have 15 pixels at the top. And there we go. Now I'm all set to start working on my background and getting it to look good with my guides without having to look into my browser, constantly, but I might do that anyway. Okay, so I'm going to keep this really simple. Remember that I'm creating this from scratch so that you can get an idea of what a real-world process might look like when creating a YouTube background. Let's create a simple rectangle and make it 970 pixels wide, since that's the width of the YouTube page. Center it and make sure it locks up against our guides. Now that we've created a rectangle, it needs to match the min height of the YouTube page itself. So let's go back to YouTube and find out what that is. If you have Firebug, you can simply press F12 to bring it up. Select the small arrow to the left corner and then select the element where we want to find the height, which is the tab content body. By looking in the style window, we can see that the min height of the page is 550 pixels. That means with all of the elements gone, the minimum height of the body will be 550 pixels. Close Firebug and let's find out what the header height is. Since YouTube doesn't have a set height for that, we'll just use a ruler in the web developer toolbar. Now by lining up the ruler with the header, we can see that the height looks to be 115 pixels. So 600 pixels, the height of the body, plus 115 pixels, the height of the header, will give us 715 pixels in height. Let's go back into Fireworks. Select the rectangle and change the height in the Properties panel to 715 pixels. Now your background will never overflow if the YouTube page gets too short. Remember to press Ctrl+S to save your work frequently, or Command+S on a Mac. The next thing I want is rounded corners, that they match the YouTube page. So let's go back to the YouTube and find out what the dimensions look like. By looking at the top of the page, we can see that the rounded corners look to be about 3 pixels and the corners on the bottom of the page look to be about 1 pixel. But we don't care much about the bottom, since our background will be faded due to the height of the page changing depending on how much information there is. So let's go back to Fireworks. Now let's take out the guides by going to View, Guides, then clicking Show Guides so that we can actually see the corners. Now we'll go to our Properties panel and change the roundness to 2%, which is about the equivalent of 3 pixels. Once you've finished creating the rounded corners, we want the background to somewhat match our avatar style for branding purposes. So I'll take a look at my avatar, and I can see that there is a blue outline on the character. To make this match, I want to make it look like there's a small blue border on my YouTube page. So I need to find out what color of the outline is real quick. It's 009 DD2. Go back to the background, and it so happens that the color of the background is already set to the outline color of the avatar. So go ahead and show the guides by going to View, Guides, and Show Guides. Set the canvas background color to the same color as your YouTube background. In this case, it's black. Now let's set the background about 1 pixel outside of the inner guides by setting the width to 974 pixels. Move it over to the left by pressing the left arrow key twice. Then move the background up by pressing the up arrow key twice. Press Ctrl+S to save as a JPEG. Go back to YouTube. Select Channel Settings, and under Background, let's choose our file and see what it looks like. You should see a blue border that's about 2 pixels, and that's exactly what we want. Just for the sake of good saving practices, go ahead and click Done Editing to keep your background. Now by going back into the Web Developer toolbar and resizing the browser to 1024, we can get an idea of what the users with that resolution will see. There's no need to pay too much attention to the larger screen resolutions, since we are working from the bottom up by starting at 1024. You can add more graphics to the background as you move up in resolution. Okay, so this background looks good so far in 1024, but if by scrolling to the bottom, the blue border is cut off because it doesn't match the length of the page. Which is fine, because it would be impossible to make it match the length of every page in your channel. What we want to do is fade the bottom, so the length of the page becomes a non-issue. Let's go ahead and do that. Go back into Fireworks, select the background, go to Commands, Creative, and select Auto Vector Mask. We want the mask to be linear from bottom to top. So select the bottom left mask, and you can see the preview if you selected the right one. Click on Apply to begin adjusting the size of the mask. We want to fade out the border as close to the bottom of the background as possible. So select the top of the adjuster, or that's what I call it, and drag it down, approximately 40 pixels from the bottom. Now scroll down and grab the bottom of the adjuster and drag it up until the background begins to fade. Press Ctrl+S to save. Great. Now let's go back into YouTube and see how it looks. Again, it's Channel Settings, then choose File under Background. So remove the background and add the new one. Now that it's finished loading, the fade is exactly how we want it, so it looks perfect. Now, to make the border a little more consistent, we need to add another one that's gray, just like on the avatar. Consistency is key. So let's go back into Fireworks, select the background, and press Ctrl+C to copy. Keep Ctrl held and press V to paste. We've created a copy of the background because a border on the original would get cut off by the mask. Change the color of the background to BBB, BBBB, which is the closest match we'll get to the border on our avatar. Now press Ctrl plus the down arrow key with the copied background selected to send it to the back. We want about a 1 pixel border, so press Ctrl plus T for the scale tool and drag like so. Now press Ctrl plus D to get out of the scale tool. The mask will cut it off if we just try to change the width. Now you can change the width to 978 pixels. Center it and bump it up by pressing the up arrow key. We might need to make this a little bit smaller, like 976 pixels. Alright, it looks good in Fireworks, so let's go back to YouTube and check it out by uploading the new background. Click Remove, then choose your new file. Okay, this looks great, and the border is a close enough match to the border on the avatar. Click Done Editing to save your changes. Now that's done, there's one last thing I want to add to my background, which can be viewed in higher resolutions, but still can look good in 1024. So let's go back into Fireworks and look at the avatar. For consistency, you can choose an element from the avatar to add to the YouTube background. I'm going to choose the swoosh graphic. So press Ctrl plus C to copy the graphic. Go back to the background and press Ctrl plus V to paste. Now I'm going to rotate the graphic and bump the edges against the inner guides, like so. Now change the width of the graphic to 45 and the height to 215. This keeps the dimensions consistent with the original. I already have the coordinates where the graphic should go, so in the Properties panel put 1218 for the X position and 9 for the Y position. This should be moved over a bit. Looks good. Now we want the same graphic on the other side of our background. So select the graphic and we'll use another method to copy it. Press Alt plus click and drag. Mouse up and let go of Alt. This is a little simpler sometimes depending on the situation. Now right click the graphic, go to Transform and select Flip Horizontal. This time the coordinates are 236 for X and 9 for Y. After you finish that, save the file as a JPEG. And let's go back to YouTube and see how it looks. It looks a little off, so let's go back and make some changes. The left side is off by about 6 pixels. So let's go back into Fireworks and press the right arrow key to move the graphic 6 pixels to the right. And do the same to the graphic on the right, except by pressing the left arrow key and pressing it only 3 times. Now let's upload it again and see how it looks this time. Don't forget to set repeat to no repeat depending on your preference. That looks much better, except that the left graphic is off by about 1 pixel. So let's go back into Fireworks, select the graphic and move it to the left 1 pixel. Ctrl plus S to save, go back to YouTube, remove the background and choose the new file. Okay, it looks great, but my resolution is very high. So let's resize it down to 1024 and check it out. That looks good too. So let's try 1280. That looks great. So I'm pretty happy with how the background looks. It's simple and consistent. Select Done Editing to save your changes. Remember, if you want a brand channel, you need to contact the Google team and request one to be able to add a header, ads, and a few other personalization elements. If I had a brand channel, this might look a lot different, but we have to make do with what we have, right? Once I get a brand channel, I'll probably add another tutorial for it. Remember that when adding information to the About section, or anything else for that matter, to keep it consistent with your graphics, colors, tone, and voice across all platforms. Consistency might be the most important factor to have a successful brand. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned a little about customizing YouTube. Stay tuned for the next installment to the series where we'll be discussing how to personalize Facebook and brand Facebook pages.